Hey everyone, Clint Coons here, and I decided to cut a video on short sales. Now, I know the real estate market's really hot right now, but there may be a tipping point where certain individuals may be walking away from their properties here in the next several months to a year. We just never know. And I want you to be aware of how to benefit from that if there's properties that are available and banks are taking them back by creating the right structures. So I thought, let's cut a video on what you should do with short sales. Okay, let's get started. Okay, so let me tell you a little bit about short sales are properties where the lender has worked out with the seller or the homeowner the ability to sell the property at a specific price. Typically that price is less than what is owed on the mortgage. Now, when you're working with short sales, the key here is typically closing on time. You got to make sure you're going to close, and you want to make sure that the lender is comfortable with you as a buyer when you're coming to the table. So when I approach a short sale, I do it the same way as I would an REO deal. And if you're not familiar with REOs, those are bank-owned properties. So this is where the bank has actually taken the property back and is now selling the property itself. When the market crashed last time, I was investing in the Las Vegas market. My partner and I were doing a lot of flips. And those flips, we were buying directly from banks. They're called REO deals. And what I realized is that when working with banks and they're scrutinizing the transaction, it's oftentimes good to set a structure up that, is going to make them feel confident that you're going to be able to close on the property, and this is all going to get wrapped up in a relatively short period of time. Right? Short sale. Well, actually, you're short on cash. Anyways, so what do we do with the short sales? Typically, I would like to buy a short sale. You have to determine, is it going to be a flip or is it going to be a hold? If you're going to use it as a hold, then it's going to be an LLC. So if it's going to be a hold, all right, we're going to use limited liability company. If it's going to be a flip, then it's going to be in our corp or maybe in an LLC owned by the corp. But if the bank's involved in it, typically I don't like to make it too complicated for the lender, because if they have to dig through too many layers to determine who's involved, it can screw up a deal like this. So if I was going to buy a hold, let's say I'll just use the LLC for example, and I have this seller over here that's involved in a short sale with this piece of property. What you want to find out is does the bank have any due date on that, where the deal has to close by a certain period of time? Because that's going to be important in order to make this come together. Oftentimes I've seen it where the banks will tell the seller, you have 45 days. We'll keep this short sale offer open to you for 45 days. So that makes the seller motivated to get that property sold, which can, help you as well to find that motivated seller. But then I would enter into the agreement with my LLC for this hold to buy this short sale. Now, if you're buying for cash, all right, if you're going to buy this deal for cash, then I suggest that you have the money inside of the LLC to buy it for cash. So you have what is referred to as, I wouldn't call them seasoned funds, but they're traceable funds is what it comes back to. Similar to REO deals, what happens is that many times, and I fell into the same trap myself, I would be down here and I would set up an LLC to buy from this bank a piece of property, and I had another entity set up over here that had my cash in it. And so what I would do is enter into the agreement with the LLC to the bank, and the money would come from myself. So I'd distribute money myself and I'd pay the bank here, and the bank didn't like any of that and said, no, you got to close in your own name. They would trace the funds. So when you're buying in a short sale transaction, I would put the money inside of the LLC's bank account. Get the money in there. So if it's going to be for the down, whatever it is, however you're structuring this deal, make sure that money's originally coming from the LLC that plans to close on that property. And then again, if you're buying for cash, all that cash should be in there. So the bank can then trace it. The next thing is that when you're closing, you have to make sure you're going to meet that deadline. Because if you can't meet the deadline, then that could throw this short sale off for the seller. And here's the risk. If you don't meet the deadline, because let's say you couldn't get your money together because you're putting together a short sale where you intend to bring in another funder or maybe a gap funder to bridge the difference on this deal that you're buying for cash, and they can't get you the funds available in time because their money's out on another deal. And I've seen this happen to a client before. So you're short 70K here because this gapper over here can't get you the money. So you end up just walking away from this deal. Bank over here, all right, they get upset because they couldn't close. So they pull the deal from the seller. Now the seller is involved in a situation with the bank where the bank comes after them for a deficiency judgment because the guy didn't sell the property within that period of time that they prescribed, and they move forward with the foreclosure procedure. That's all going to roll downhill. And so what could happen, and again, I've seen this happen, the seller now, because you failed to close, brings an action against you, all right, for failure to close. So why are they going to bring action against you? Because you were aware of the fact that this was a short sale and you didn't close. And as a result of you not closing, it costs that seller money via the deficiency judgment. So by putting that deal together in an entity like a limited liability company, making your offer in the LLC, what you're doing is this. You're minimizing personal risk exposure. Don't make an offer in your own name to put this deal together unless you're going to use traditional financing. If that's the case, well, that's fine. If we're going the traditional financing route, but if you're buying for cash, then you got to make sure, if you're using a gap fund, there's more risk here if you're bringing someone else into the deal. Always use an LLC, so if it goes south, you don't have personal liability back to that seller should they decide to sue. Short sales can be a great way to pick up deals, really good deals by working with motivated sellers, but there is some risk there, so make sure you're using your entity to put that deal under contract and close in the name of the entity. All right, everyone, take care.